Today, we're diving into some fascinating sources to explore the incredible variety of complex societies that were built right here in the Americas, long before Europeans ever arrived. We're talking about a huge span of time, from around 250 CE all the way up to the early 1500s. I mean, that's the big one, isn't it? How do you actually build a civilization? Think about it. How do you organize thousands or even millions of people? How do you manage resources, project your power, and create a culture that holds everything together? Well, what's so amazing is that there was no single answer. The ancient Americas were like a giant laboratory of ideas. From the sprawling empires in Mesoamerica to the chiefdoms of the Mississippi, we're about to see a stunning landscape of human innovation. So let's get started on our journey and see exactly how they did it.
First stop is Mesoamerica, what we now know as modern Mexico and Central America. Now, to really get a handle on the huge empires that grew here, you have to start with the people who kind of wrote the first draft of the imperial blueprint.
The Maya. These guys were absolutely brilliant. They developed the most advanced writing system in the Americas and were so advanced mathematically they even came up with the concept of zero. But here's the thing, politically they weren't one giant unified empire. They were more like a collection of powerful and often warring city-states. So how did they control territory beyond their own city walls?
Well, they use a really clever system of indirect control. Instead of trying to rule every single conquered town themselves, they just let the local rulers stay in power. There was just one little catch. Those rulers had to pay tribute, basically sending a steady stream of goods like textiles, food, or precious materials back to the more powerful Maya city. It was a pretty smart way to expand your influence without needing a giant, expensive government.
And you really need to hang on to that idea of a tributary state, because it is absolutely key to understanding who came next. Let's jump forward in time a bit, to the heirs of this Mesoamerican tradition, the mighty Aztecs.
So, the people who built what we call the Aztec Empire, the Mexica, they actually started out as semi-nomadic outsiders. In the early 1300s, they migrated south, and by around 1345, they founded their jaw-dropping capital city, Tenochtitlan. Then, in 1428, they formed a strategic triple alliance that kicked off one of the fastest and most explosive imperial expansions the world has ever seen.
And here's the brilliant part. Their strategy was all about not reinventing the wheel. They basically looked at the system we just talked about and scaled it way, way up. This tributary model was perfect. It let them expand super fast without the headache of managing every single conquered town. Then, they cemented their power with some smart political branding, claiming to be the rightful heirs of older, respected civilizations like the Toltecs. It was this perfect mix of brute force and savvy politics. And you want to know if it worked? Just look at their capital. At its height, Tenochtitlan had a population of maybe 200,000 people. I mean, that made it one of the largest and most impressive cities on the entire planet at the time. It was the powerful beating heart of their empire.
And the city itself? Wow. An absolute engineering marvel. It had huge marketplaces buzzing with an incredible economy, massive pyramid temples soaring into the sky, and get this, they literally built their own farmland in the middle of a lake using these chinampas, or floating gardens. Just an unbelievable display of ingenuity.
So we have the Aztec model, this decentralized empire built on tribute. But at the exact same time, another massive empire was on the rise, far to the south, down in the Andes Mountains. And believe me, they had a completely different playbook for how to build a state.
Okay, let's travel south now to meet the Inca. They forged their empire in one of the toughest environments on Earth, the soaring Andes Mountains. And their solution for how to control it all was radically different.
Okay, the contrast here is just night and day. Where the Aztecs were decentralized and wanted your stuff as tribute, the Inca were the exact opposite. They were highly centralized with a huge government bureaucracy that reached into every single corner of the empire. And their economy wasn't based on a tribute of goods, it was based on a tax of labor.
This labor tax was called the Mitas system. It was basically a mandatory public service. Every able-bodied person owed the state a certain chunk of their time each year. So it wasn't about sending corn or textiles to the capital. It was about sending yourself to go work on state projects. And that organized labor, it built everything. It powered the mines, it worked the state-owned farms, and it constructed the incredible Inca road system, a massive network that was totally essential for communication, trade, and moving armies across their vast mountainous kingdom. But these kinds of powerful, complex societies weren't just in Mesoamerica and the Andes, not by a long shot. Let's head north into what's now the United States to see some other really unique answers to that big question of how to build a civilization.
So in the super fertile Mississippi River Valley, a major civilization popped up, all powered by their mastery of farming. They grew so much food they could support large populations and complex societies. These were organized into chiefdoms, ruled by powerful leaders known as the Great Sun. And of course, they're famous for building these enormous earthen mounds, with their largest city, Cahokia, acting as a true cultural and political center for a massive trade network.
All right, now let's go from those fertile river valleys and head way west into the arid desert. Here, cultures like the Chaco and Mesa Verde faced a massive challenge. How in the world do you build a thriving society when there's almost no water?
Their solutions were just pure genius. They became absolute masters of managing water, engineering all kinds of sophisticated canals and reservoirs to capture every last precious drop. Since they didn't have a lot of big trees for building, they perfected their stonework, constructing these huge multi-story great houses from local sandstone. And the Mesa Verde people? They took it a step further, using their architectural skills to build entire villages right into the side of cliffs for protection. Incredible.
So, we've kind of toured the continents and seen all these radically different approaches. Let's bring it all back together and really compare these different paths to power.
It really breaks down so clearly. You've got the decentralized Aztec Empire, running on a tribute of goods. Then the hyper-centralized Inca state, powered by that Mita labor tax. Head north, and you find the Mississippian chiefdoms built on surplus farming, and the southwestern peoples who created communal societies through brilliant engineering and adaptation. 4 very different places, 4 very different systems. I think the big takeaway here is this. The Americas before 1500 were anything but a monolith. You know, they were a vibrant laboratory of political and social experimentation. Every single one of these cultures, shaped by their unique history and their environment, found its own sophisticated way to organize a society and build a world.
And you know, looking at all these different answers leads to one final, really big question. When you strip away all the details of time and place, what is it about us? What is that fundamental human drive that compels people, everywhere and in all times, to build these large, complex, and ambitious worlds?